Hey, hello everybody. My name is John, and I am doing a Munro live podcast with folks from Rove Charging. I am with the CEO, Mr. Bill Reid, and the VP, Mr. Jeff Toon. Could you please, starting with Bill, let the audience know what you do for the company, not just title-wise, but also your background?
John, thank you very much for having Jeff and I on your podcast. We're very excited to be here, and we've got great news and a great product to discuss with all your subscribers. I'm the CEO and one of the founders of Rove Charging, based in Southern California, and I have the pleasure of introducing Jeff Toon, who's our VP of E-Mobility and Infrastructure, also a founder of the business. And we started this business as frustrated EV drivers. We had trouble finding chargers. When we found one that worked, there was a long line. It was at the back of a parking lot. There were no amenities. And we just thought there's got to be a better way. Somebody should build a site with lots of chargers, lots of fast chargers that's open 24 hours a day. That will mean there's availability, there's accessibility because it should be near a highway or near, very busy roads. And let's put some amenities in there like clean bathrooms and maybe a market. And one other thing that we did, which we thought was made sense, was let's have customer support on the site 24 hours a day. So either a security guard at night or a charging support technician who's always there to answer questions.
Yeah, and Jeff Toon, VP of E-Mobility and Infrastructure. My background is 15 years in renewable energy, started in commercial solar, went to energy storage systems, worked for companies like Solar City and Tesla, and really got the EV infrastructure bug when I was working at Tesla. I was back in 2016, 17. Worked for them, then went into private construction where I built EV charging stations all over the Southwest United States. Built some large infrastructure projects that were similar to Rove, and that's really where my experience came into play. Is I built these before, and so really what you see is the concept behind me is a 40 station with amenities, energy storage systems, solar canopies, and really just had the opportunity to talk with our original founders that what does the EV industry need? And with the electrical infrastructure, we need amenities. And so that's really what got the conversations going. And, today we have our first station open, and we look forward to bringing many, many more to opening relatively soon.
Very nice. I think your first station is in Santa Ana, California, correct?
Santa Ana at the intersection of Lincoln and 17th Street.
Very
So
nice.
very close to the 5. And since we've opened it, it's been very, very busy. And we've been extremely pleased, which I think confirms that EV drivers wanted a place to go, certainly in our immediate region. And one other thing to mention is we have chargers that with CCS, and we have Tesla chargers. So any type of EV can be handled at our site.
Mhm. Are those are those attachments available at each charging station for the customer to use then?
Yeah, I
Uh,
mean, basically the charging station is set up kind of like here's a row of CCS chargers, here's a row of
Okay.
NACS Tesla chargers. So
Okay.
when you come on site, you can tell which charger you're going to be utilizing, whether you have a Tesla vehicle or you have a Ford or a GM that's going to use a CCS.
Okay. Uh, at what point of the day are these things the most busiest? Would it be during rush hour, before rush hour, after rush hour, at nighttime?
it's a very interesting question. Yesterday, our busiest hour was 7 in the morning,
Okay.
but then it gets very busy around 5 or 6 o'clock at night, probably even a little bit more. But we're also busy, much to our surprise, between 11 and 1, which is people at the end of the day, or maybe gig workers, or people who just want to be ready to get up and go first thing in the morning. They're coming, and much more than we expected. And what we read is they like the fact that they feel safe. There's lighting, there's a security guard, and they know there will be other drivers there.
Okay. Jeff, behind you, where you're sitting right now, I think you said that shows essentially two-thirds of the overall facility. Is that correct?
That is correct. We have another row, probably to the this way. Another row, so probably another 10 chargers on that row. So a large solar canopy supports our middle aisle. And then you can see the solar canopy that supports our CCS on this side as well. So, one of the biggest amenities we have is shade. And we just have the ability to put solar on there and generate power as well. So it's a great use of both customer convenience and power for our facility.
Yeah, I think what's really good about where you're headed with this, what you've already done and where you're headed, is the fact that usually most chargers, people think of, chargers outside in the exposed elements, and there's nothing for me to do. So it's not a lot of fun. And so therefore, maybe they prefer to charge at their house for longer periods of time. That's really no fun either. I think, Jeff, you had mentioned too earlier, and before the podcast got rolling, is that these things do exist in Europe. What does set what you offer apart from what's available in Europe today currently?
So we know in England there's 3 or 4 sites fairly similar to ours that'll have a lot of amenities. They do not have as many chargers as we do, and they do not appear to have Tesla chargers from what I can see from the pictures. So people are using connectors or using the standard CCS.
Okay.
And one site I think had 2 Tesla chargers. So we're trying to appeal to every driver, and the Tesla driver can just plug and charge. And the other key element is that if you're driving a Rivian or whatever, you can just tap and pay on the front of the charger. You don't need to have downloaded an app. We have an app, of course, but you no need to have downloaded an app, and you can just use your credit card or your Apple Pay and plug in.
And really, what sets us apart in the United States is we're first to market with this type of facility here. And just from our customer experience and our feedback from them, they're very supportive of what we've built. And we were fortunate enough to kind of build it, and they will come strategy. And we've been rewarded that they're coming back and they're giving good feedback that we built a positive experience. It's what they're looking for, and based on conversations with our customers, we have different ideas that we're entertaining to make sure that we still provide them with future-proof experiences in the future.
Are the customers able to provide feedback via website or perhaps a drop box at your facility in some way, shape, or form, so what they like and what they look forward to doing each visit?
They go to our website, rovecharging.com, or they talk to one of our technical support individuals, or they go into Yelp or Google or whatever app they're using, PlugShare, and they put in comments. So we check all of those, and we've been very pleased with people's enthusiasm for our first site.
Okay. Obviously, when you have a facility of this size, it requires a certain amount of maintenance too. So how do you manage that overall?
Really, the maintenance is our on-site support staff.
Okay.
In the beginning of the day, they go out and wipe down the chargers, make sure all the plugs are working, all these screens are working, and really we have preventative maintenance starting on a daily basis. Of course, you're going to have preventative maintenance on a 3, a 6, a yearly, but our strategy is first line of defense, on-site staff.
Okay. If we back up a little bit and we look at going from the idea to execution and what happened in between those 2 phases, how did the unit collectively work together, or just get together and get it to the point of where it's at right now currently?
Well, as you can imagine, the startups are hard to have succeed. I think there's something like 95% of the startups fail and never get to operations. We were thoughtful enough to know first we needed to develop partnerships with the equipment suppliers, Tesla and ABB. And secondly, we had to understand the power dynamic in building a site like this. The power demand when 40 chargers are being used is as large as a neighborhood or a mall. I mean, you need a lot of power on the site. We brought in real estate development executives. We have a person who's responsible for our relationship with the local utilities. And we made sure the whole team understood what we were trying to accomplish. And unlike some other teams, which maybe have came out of one industry, we have people who've come out of the construction and engineering industry, came out of finance, came out of real estate development, and came out of power.
Okay. Do most of your people work at an office, or do most of the people work collaboratively off-site / remote?
So we started as a remote business, but opened up a home base and a lab in Redondo Beach now almost a year ago. So about half of our staff works out of that site, and the rest of us, like Jeff and I, are remote, and we travel to California frequently. But it works. I mean, it's a hybrid structure. But so long as you're available and you can get on the phone, we've been able to solve problems and work very effectively.
So if you look out into the future and you say, hey, I want to put one of these facilities at location B, because we'll call that location A behind Jeff.
Yeah.
How do you work with the local and state government, even maybe the federal government, so far as the infrastructure to support something of that size and magnitude?
Well, it's a very good question. I mean, just so you know, we started building our second site in Costa Mesa. We have 9 others in development, 2 of which will be shovel ready by May.
Okay.
So the first thing is you got to find the real estate, and you got to make sure it's in a rich EV environment with a lot of EV registrations and close to a major highway. The second thing you got to do is make sure there's enough power nearby, and Jeff focuses on that, and then we can get it to the site, and it's not too expensive. But the third, and what has been the hardest for us, is getting through the permitting requirements for what's in effect a new facility for most of these cities. They've never seen anything like this. So we've had to work very closely with Santa Ana in the first case, but Costa Mesa and Long Beach and Corona and Malibu and other places to get them to understand what we're trying to do. It took longer initially, but I think the more of these we build and the more somebody who's in charge of permitting can come and see what we've done, the easier that will be. The final point is we did not rely on any government subsidies to build these sites. I've been in the energy business long enough to know that all you need is an election, and the next guy comes in and takes away the subsidies or the loan guarantee program or the loan program. And that's exactly what we saw in November, is that the new administration is not as supportive of EVs as the Democratic administration.
Yeah, I understand that. Absolutely, you're correct. So Jeff, it sounds like to me you take care of the executable side of the business, and Bill, where you're on the front of the business. Is that a correct statement?
Yeah, I sort of keep an eye on everything, and Jeff actually does the hard work, particularly on laying out a site from an electrical engineering standpoint and making sure we've got the right equipment. And Jeff, you may want to talk for just a minute about our battery facility.
Yeah, and really what this goes into is this is not a normal facility. If we're just looking at typical EV charging that you've seen out in the past in the parking lot or in between cities, as that's kind of remote destination charging, you can build those in under a month. Those are simpler infrastructure projects. When you're trying to bring power of this magnitude, and our COO, Howard Taylor, loves to say, a typical project is 60 microwaves. Well, bringing power to our facilities is like 10,000 microwaves. And it takes time and planning and coordination. And really, we have a significant due diligence process. And some of that due diligence process is making sure there's power. Power is going to be delivered to our site within 1 to 3 years. There's going to be measurements of the costs that are going to be related to that. This power is usually not just right next to your facility. Usually you've got to go get it down the street in the right of ways. And I'll make it sound very easy. Just dig to it. But there's a lot of work that goes behind the scenes with coordination, utilities, energization, inspections, submittals that we have to work hand in hand with utility providers. So it's a really interesting collaboration that we do. And then from the experience of the construction is different as well. Our facility has both amenities, a building, a grocery store, has charging. When I go back to say that it takes a month to build charging in a smaller facility, it takes longer for design, architecture, having conversations with city, permitting processes. So it's really an interesting endeavor when you try to mix all of these amenities and charging at one facility.
Oh, I can only imagine. I'm imagining also too that you have wheelchair accessibility throughout the facility for those that want to charge the vehicle easily enough, go into the store, Wi-Fi bar.
We really spent a lot of time looking at specifically the ADA. You just need to make the chargers accessible, ease of access, clear all obstacles. You still have to protect the equipment, so you got to be logical in where you're putting the bollards, but you still need to have access for a disabled person to come and access the screen. You need to understand that the cables need to be accessible. They can easily be manipulated. Unfortunately, charging cables are a little bit on the heavy side, so there's a lot of thought process that you really need to think about going into these. And Rove has the advantage of designing this from scratch to where we have the advantage of taking the ADA section and really making sure that it's thoughtful. We're not stuck in an area where it's going to be challenging. So a lot of thought went into just the accessibility requirements of our station.
Thank you. I was actually going to ask you about the bollards, how you protect each of the 40 charging stations. I think that's important because you want to protect your equipment. So let's just say I drive in to charge my EV. Okay, walk me through that step up to or out past charging, starting the charge of or dispensing the energy, and now what can I look forward to exactly to kill time while I'm charging my vehicle? You mentioned grocery store and things of that nature. I think Gelson's, is that the name of the company?
We chose as our retail partner Gelson's, and they've started something called a recharge market, which is a smaller market with basic foods and household items and coffee and beverages, etc. I think probably higher quality items than you would see in a traditional gas station market. It's gone very, very well. Most people on our site are there for 20 to 30 minutes, depending on how much electricity they want. So they have a chance to go into the restroom, check their email in the lounge, go into the market and get a cappuccino or a sandwich or whatever they need for the rest of the day, and then go back to their car.
Okay.
And really, what we were looking at as some of our initial concepts when we're discussing the overall experience was we wanted to make the experience similar to what's currently out there. We don't want to change customer behavior, so you don't have to go to a regular gas station and download an app to be able to use our infrastructure. And a lot of charge point operators, that's some of their basic requirements, that you have to download an app, you have to use their app to start to charge. For us, we thought it was important to walk up to the charger. You can bring out your card, you can tap to pay. You don't have to be in the ecosystem of the charge point operator to be able to utilize the charger. And so that was a very big experience that we thought was necessary, was just a tap to play. People don't like downloading multiple apps. There's quite a bit in the industry. So that was really one of our significant points that we wanted to make sure the customers didn't have to download that app.
Is there an avenue through which the customer can check to see if there is an available charging station when they're perhaps 5 miles away from the facility?
We're in all the map directories. We're in the Tesla system. We provide the app the information as to what's available and how much power we have. So it really depends on what you're relying on to be able to get that information, but we do make that information available.
Okay. You mentioned, Bill, that you have you have actually engaged with several other locations. You're going to have shovel-ready. Did you say 2 shovel-ready locations?
So we actually started 2 weeks ago, our next station in Costa Mesa on Harbor Boulevard.
Okay.
It's the main thoroughfare down to Newport Beach. Very, very, very active. We expect to be a very, very active location.
As you move, let's hope this grows, and as you move out east into the colder climates, how much of the facility will change to meet the demands of snow and ice and sleet?
Well, for better or for worse, we decided we're going to stay in Southern California for a while.
Okay.
And it's not just because we like the climate. We want to get enough units open so that people know they can always find a Rove station.
Okay.
And hopefully that's, 40 or 50. These are expensive, as you can imagine, because they're large and there's a specially built building, et cetera.
Yeah.
The only other market in America that would really support that amount of usage is Northern California. But where Jeff is in Texas is coming on very fast, and Florida and other states, I think within the next 2 to 3 years would also be able to support a station of our size. So first we're gonna stay home and make sure we get enough sites to make Southern Californians happy, and then we'll move on from there.
There you go. Very nice. So, what kind of foods do you offer at the grocery store, at the charging station?
So the recharge market has everything from sushi to pre-made salads to soups, sandwiches, all sorts of snacks. I mean, there's a whole aisle of chips and nuts that's quite diverting when you walk through it, because there's a lot of things that you'd like to try. And then of course every beverage you can imagine, as well as hot coffee and bakery items, so you can get a donut or a bagel. So really anything you might want to have, and maybe you take it into the lounge and you sit there and eat it right there while your car is charging, or maybe you take it away for lunch or eating in the car.
Hey, Bill, did you want to talk a little bit about some of our customer feedback that we're now putting in a little bit larger TVs, and we're just listening to feedback, trying to make our site a little bit more welcoming.
You will be able to come to our site, and if there's a March Madness basketball game or the Masters in golf, or
Oh, nice.
a weather pattern coming in, we'll have the TV on, one of the large TVs in our lounge on, so you'll be able to come in and see what's happening in the world. And if it's about sports, you'll be happy. If it's just the general news of the weather, you should also be able to get that information.
What is the size of this lounge?
It's about 1,500 square feet. I'm taking that number off the top of my head, and we have 5 ADA compliant bathrooms, and a place to fill your water bottle, and you should come and see it. It's kind of what you would want to have if you were designing a station for yourself.
Yeah, I think so.
We also put in, because you never see these at charging stations. We have squeegees so you can clean your windshield, and we have air pumps so you can fill your tires. In fact, one of the major OEM tire providers is running a promotion today and tomorrow at our site, where helping people learn how to measure the amount of air that's in your tires. And we also have free vacuums, so if you want to vacuum your car. And we thought that's kind of a nice little thing, but people are very excited about it, and you will find them at every Rove site.
That's amazing. Where are the vacuums at behind you, Jeff? Are they at every charging station or some?
No, we have a dedicated towards the front of the building, a
Okay.
dedicated area. And, interesting enough, we have 3 vacuums, and one of them is built around accessibility. So it's an ADA accessible vacuum stall. So again, it's really fun when you can take an idea and be creative with it, and sit there and discuss, what are people going to want? What are people going to want to see, and what services are they going to want? So, being part of this Rove organization and being able to have that ability to discuss what people want and then implement it has been really a fun ride.
So the charging cost per kilowatt hour, what is that currently out there?
So we look at what the market is doing, and we've recently revised some of our pricing. So on the CCS chargers, it's currently 48 cents a kilowatt hour, which is a little bit below our competition, but really matches the competitors who are selling monthly packages. We don't want to be that complicated in pricing. We want to have just an everyday low price.
Yeah.
And then Tesla sets the prices on theirs, and they're 40 cents during daylight hours, and either 27 or 28 cents in nighttime hours. Right now, and they change, so depending on the time of year.
Okay. So the facility, it looks like, gentleman from what I'm looking at behind Jeff there is geared more for trucks and four-door sedans. Is that a correct statement?
We designed the facility to be larger. So everything we did on this first one, we just wanted to make sure we can accommodate larger vehicles. And so our stalls are 10 foot wide. An average parking spot is 9 foot wide. So we just wanted to feel what customers wanted. And so we didn't want to make sure that they were small, squished in. We want to make sure there was room, get out, able to, on our CCS, there's not a consistency with where the plugs are. So the plugs of cars can be on the right side or the left side. And we just want to make sure that our customers had enough room to maneuver, just to be able to access the charger, access their charging point. And I think that's part of the overall feeling that customers appreciate.
Very nice. I can actually envision one day seeing one of these facilities with a car wash attached to it.
Well, Santa Ana has a car wash attached to it.
It does.
And yeah, we had the room to put it in. They're a little harder to permit, and they take up a fair amount of space, but people love it. It's an automatic car wash. You drive through it, and it does a very good job. So that was one of the things that we added. Costa Mesa is not a large enough site to really have a car wash on it, so we won't have it there. So we'll do it on a site-by-site basis.
Okay, very nice. So what if I roll in with an RV? What are my options for charging?
I'm not sure we'll be able to accommodate you. We may be able to, but I don't know about an electric EV other than the Volkswagen bus that is out, but RV. But if you can fit in a normal gas station, you'll be able to fit in the Rove.
Okay, very nice.
And our design considerations for our solar canopies was taking larger vehicles into account. You do have some vans that have air conditioning units on them, so we made an emphasis to design the canopies, that were taller, 12 feet. So it'll accommodate vans with a little bit of luggage on top. So we didn't want them to be hitting the canopies as they drove by.
Right.
How high are the canopies?
They're about 12 foot.
Okay, that's plenty high, actually.
Yeah.
Do you offer virtual walkthroughs of the facility so people?
We do. If you go to our website, there's a 3D walkthrough.
Is there
It's
really?
quite fun. You can walk around the site and check at the entrances and see what's around, and then you can go into the building and go in and up and down the store and into the lounge and see how it's all laid out.
That's very nice. I'll definitely check that out. You mentioned some of the other locations you're looking at. Could you please repeat that one more time for the listening audience so they're aware?
So our first 4 locations, our second one will probably be Costa Mesa. And after that, we have one in Torrance and a 4th one in Long Beach. Torrance and Long Beach right off the highway. And then we have another 7 that are somewhere in the development phase. The ones we've announced are Corona, Oceanside, Malibu, but others are under control.
Okay, nice. And how long does it take to install one of these facilities?
Well, the first time it took too long, almost a year.
Okay.
But Jeff has been working hard, and because we learned so much the first time we built it, we're hoping to have Costa Mesa open within 6 months.
Okay. 6 months from now?
6 months from now.
Wow. So your workload is going to become a lot more busy on the front end, and then of course Jeff on the back end, you're going to be extremely busy. And you're going to be managing multiple sites going up at any given time, plus the maintenance of these. Are these actually ultimately going to be owned by you, or will you sell these locations to other entities going forward?
We think we're the only company in North America that is actually fully developing a site and then operating it itself. Now, this land here in Santa Ana is leased under a very long-term lease. So we own it and we operate it.
So I remember some time back sitting around with my buddies and with EVs, and they're telling me about, well, if we go shopping, we're outside, we're charging the vehicle, and it's just, they didn't like it. Another guy says, well, how come they don't have these large facilities with multiple charging stations, AKA like what you would see on a turnpike in between the opposite bound traffic? Right? You know what I'm talking about, right? It's like, well, that's a good idea. That was quite some time ago. No one's done it except for you guys, from what I'm hearing. Is right?
We had the same idea. Why is this so hard, right?
Yeah.
Why can't we just make a site for EVs? And that's what we did.
Very nice. And and you're in a great location for it too, because Southern California is, I think it's the EV capital of the country.
World.
Yeah.
Of the world.
Of the
it's
world.
Ground zero of EV ownership.
Okay.
And although China's growing very, very fast, they're very enthusiastic about electric vehicles. But Southern California and with Northern California are the most dense EV ownership parts of the United States.
Do some of your chargers connect to UPS systems in case there is a power outage? I would imagine you couldn't have a UPS system attached to all 40 units. That would probably be cost prohibitive. But uninterruptible power supplies, is that something that's available at your location?
We do have batteries on site, but that will be in the roadmap. We just want to make it easy that it's going to distribute power during peak time of use. We're going to keep it simple. We are working and have roadmaps to be able to utilize those batteries in a utility outage, but just not today.
Okay. Gentlemen, how else are you getting your messaging out to grow your business outside of this particular podcast? Because I think it's important for people that are listening and will listen to understand that, to learn more about your direction.
Well, the first thing is very good community engagement. We've worked with the local EV clubs. We've brought in OEMs to show their EVs. We've worked with community groups. We did a food drive in the fall. We do special events for the major holidays. We want to develop a very positive reputation with our neighbors. The second thing is we use every social media channel you can imagine, from email, Instagram, the apps that people use to find sites. We're trying to get into every form of digital media.
With the current facility, it's up and running. What challenges do you face, and how do you overcome them, if there are any?
Well, you obviously have a very dynamic political environment right now, but we believe in EVs, and I sincerely believe that it's a terrific product that when people can afford it and the prices are coming down, they will prefer it over an internal combustion engine. So we think the future for EVs is very, very bright. Just as an aside, in China, 50% of every car now is an electric vehicle. In California, it's almost 25%. It's not in America, but it is in California because people have tried them and they really, really like them. But we do worry about the environment and the adoption, but that just may slow down the purchase of EVs.
Okay.
The second thing we worry about is we obviously have to pay very close attention to what's happening to prices of electricity, the energy markets overall, and we do. We have a very good relationship with the utilities we rely on, and we monitor minute to minute what's happening with the grid coming into our site.
Okay, very nice. Is there anything else you might want to add? I think before we wrap on this particular podcast, to promote your business?
I just want people to come and try us if they're in Southern California. We're trying to have the best customer experience possible for EV drivers. Those who've come and seen it seem to be coming back at increasing numbers. Our utilization has been going up week over week, up over week. So come and see for yourself, or look on the website and see for yourself. I think you'll be very pleased.
Absolutely. I have another question though. Is when you look at your unit, the facility behind Jeff, from a capacity standpoint, are you typically at full use, half use? I know it's dependent on time, but overall aggregate, what is your percent utilization?
So the question isn't really whether you're operating at 20% or 40%, because it depends on the hours, and it depends on the day of the week or whether there's a holiday. What I always ask the operations team is, how much queuing did you have yesterday, and how long was the queue? Did people have to wait for a charger, and how long did they wait? And we've had very high utilization, particularly on weekends. And I think the longest queue was 6 or 7 cars, and the wait time was 2 minutes.
Okay.
That's a good customer experience. I will worry if it gets much, much worse than that, because we want people to know that there's going to be a charger available. And if they have to wait for 5 minutes, they'll still have a terrific experience.
Exactly. And the number 40, how did that come about?
That's what fit on an acre.
Is it
with
really?
all the electrical equipment.
Okay.
And there's nothing magic about it, but it seems to be working very well. Could we have a site where it's 36 or even less than that? Yes. We have a couple of sites where we know we could take it up to 50 or 60 if the demand is there. So Jeff makes sure we're future proofing if we want to add chargers. So we want to make sure we have the power that people need when they come to find their energy.
All right. Bill and Jeff, is there anything else you'd like to add?
Thank you very much for having us. It's always a pleasure, and we love talking about Rove.
Thank you, John.
Bill and Jeff, thank you very much. This is John from Munro Live Podcast. I think it was a good conversation today with the guys from Rove Charging. Thank you very much.